Okay, great. Welcome everyone. We're glad you're here. And I want you to know as I get started that I'll be sending out a follow-up email with a copy of the slides and links to at least most of the resources that I'll be sharing tonight. So don't worry about taking notes. You can take your time to listen. And that email will come maybe tomorrow or hopefully by Monday. Also, as we go, we want you to think of some of your favorite resources and be ready to share those with us at our discussion time at the end, or chat them to Cheryl if you want to just send her a note as we go along, and she can compile those for us. I also want to just mention this is such a broad topic, and there are so many resources out there. As Ashley mentioned, we try to pull out our favorites, but I know we won't cover all that we could. But hopefully you'll find some that will be of help for you and your family, or for those that you come alongside. So first section is rhythms and routines, and fitting it all in, particularly as a family with kids with disabilities, is always challenging, but in many ways it does feel magnified with COVID-19. In some ways we have so much time at home. We also have so many things to do, and the stresses are magnified with the uncertainties, the disappointments over things that aren't happening, and just the changes to life. So again, we want to give you some tools, help you think through small steps that can serve your family well. And this phrase, rhythms and routines, is very intentional. We need routines. They give us a sense of security and stability. As we develop routines, they can help our kids grow and develop self-discipline, develop those skills on their own. They can become more automatic. We need the structure of the routines, but we also need a rhythm that allows for change and flexibility when it is needed. So we want to kind of keep that tension of routines, and then also just that rhythms idea that gives the flexibility. So a few starting thoughts. We want to make sure that we're thinking about healthy family habits, ordering life to include, important things, adequate sleep and exercise. Here's a first little tidbit here is grab and go brain breaks. And these are sticks with different exercises. So it might just be part of a routine to mix up the exercise activity for the day. Pull up a different brain break, or a kid's bored or restless, have them grab something. And there are lots of different ways that you can give strategies like that. Providing structure to your day. This can help, just thinking about scheduling to keep that school, work, and life balance. Can be good to define what school hours are going to be as a family, and then structure that around your needs. Do you have a kid that's a really slow starter in the morning? Maybe you need to push the schedule back a little bit. Really tired out from the weekend, so you want a slower start in to the week, that sort of thing. So you can plan around your family's needs, depending again on what your school setting is for kids, or their work setting. Organizing your space can be really helpful. One of the tips I like is to definitely be organized and think about the resources you need, but think about easy storage. Have built-in flexibility, so that it may be a bin for each kid for all their school things, so you can grab it and go. I think Ashley talks about having her stuff in a backpack that she can carry outside, so they can do some school outside, something like that. So kids could go from room to room if they need some more privacy or just want a change of setting, but also maybe as a family you can grab and go to different locations. Be intentional about your time and habits, or it won't happen. We know that. We just kind of get stuck in a rut sometimes. And be realistic. We want to take small steps, and when we're adding in routines, we know that some things will work and some won't. So good to check in as a family regularly and adjust your schedule as needed. And so this might be more of a time, if you're not already doing family meetings, family check-ins, to begin those and really talk about, okay, if your kids are old enough, school is different this year. If they're at home, even for a period of time, while the schools figure out the year plans, talk about what's going on. And I like this last point, be thankful. I think of my pastor and his family have talked a lot about just their habit of thanking God and building in that structure, that routine of thanking God for 10 things every day. It helps just be mindful, kind of step out of the moment and think about the day and those things that we can thank God for. Helps look for the positives and celebrate progress as we go. Okay, and so a couple planning tools. This first one that you'll see there is kind of a big picture planning. Think about what you want for each day, what will help your kids stay calm and focused. Maybe there's a particular activity or kind of break that your kids need, or something they really love that they want to do. For my daughter, one of those would be time for music every day. That's a priority every day. When we plan in the different parts of our schooling, we're going to need to make sure that we have that. We might need movement for a kid. We might need just some downtime, or there might be particular lessons going on that we have to schedule around. So those are some of the things we need to think about on a daily and weekly basis. And then you can move into more of the specifics. The second middle schedule breaks up the day into academics times, gives downtime, chore times, just the different components of the day. Most kids really thrive on routines and predictability. So having a set daily schedule, maybe that you establish for them, and hopefully with some input from them, will be a help. This schedule is one that you can edit. There'll be a link in the notes if you'd like to use something like that, or certainly it's easy enough to use other programs to build in a physical schedule. The schedule on the right is from Attitude, Attitude website, and I'll refer to this again later, but you can see in this schedule they build in a lot of physical activity, movement breaks, recess, free time, just really giving those breaks during the day. And there's a woman, Dr. Celine, that I came across through one of their webinars, and she talks about how much we really do need breaks. She says prolonged periods of hyperfocus actually deplete the glucose centers of the brain. So there's a real scientific reason why these breaks can be really good for our kids. That can increase cortisol levels and increase internal stress. So taking planned breaks at agreed upon points help us reset. So there's a physiological benefit of doing those resets. Visuals are so important. So as you develop a routine and a schedule, think about visual supports. I like this little one on the top left, Sam's morning routine flip chart. And one of the cool things about it is it's made just with a regular file folder, cut down strips, and there's magnets. So it's fun that when a kid completes an activity, they close up the little section and it disappears. I think that's very visually motivating for a child to complete. You might consider whether a child needs something like that, an activity-specific schedule. That's a morning routine. Below that, you'll see routines for brushing teeth and washing hands. So if a child's learning a new skill and they need a visual for all the details of that routine, you can give them something like that. On the upper, the multicolored cards are icons, or you could print them out and use them for a larger schedule. Let's see, and then the before school checklist that you'll see, just adjusting my screens a little bit, is broader. It doesn't break down the tasks as much. It's prepare for your day, get clean and get dressed. So there's more lumped in together, you might say. But overall, visual schedules can build success and independence. So maybe a child's learning a new skill and they need something like those icons, those pictures of a task, breaking it down. And then as they learn that task, then they can go to something where they might just check it off. The routine cards, there will be a link to 24 cards, including 6 that you can edit on your own to add your own items. So those can be a nice resource, or again, you can come up with your own. One nice thing is to laminate a schedule board, like where the checklist is. If you laminate it or use another resource like that, you can use dry erase markers, check it off when completed. That's always another motivating activity. And then reuse it again the next week. The idea of habit or chore stacking was actually new to me, and I came across that working on this. If you're not familiar with it, a lot of people are writing about chaining or stacking or tiny habits. And it's about building routines around habits so that they don't require much effort. You use an existing activity or time of day as a trigger or an anchor to do something else. So for me, forgetting to take my vitamins regularly, I'm trying to implement, okay, when I fix my coffee in the morning, I'm going to take my vitamin. It might be after I finish breakfast, I'm going to put my dishes in the dishwasher. Teach a kid that. That's just part of the process, is you eat breakfast and you put your dishes away. Giving anchor points to the day, you can build one routine at a time. Remember that changes are going to come slowly, so make it simple. And the woman who put this checklist, or this how to create a chore routine visual together, talks about, as a mom of a 10, 8, and 5-year-old, that she needed a system to help her kids keep track of everything. And so again, she talks about adding one at a time. Consistency is key. Don't let things go. If you're going to pick a habit to work on, then you need to stick with it. Talks about stacking chores and giving them a name. So like, it's the morning chores, it's the kitchen chores, bedtime chores. Having a regular 5-minute cleanup during the day. And I think that could be fun to add in something special with it. So that might be a good time to listen to a podcast or listen to some music, kind of treat it as a activity, or even a game or a race. Some families could enjoy that. And then she encourages us to lower expectations, begin with building the habit, and then work on doing a better job. Think long-term, stay consistent, and build those in. There's a couple of visuals here. One is chores on a key ring. So just index cards on a key ring that you can cycle through, or kids can just pick up their chore stack from a hook or wherever it's located and go through those. And then at the bottom, those are on a lanyard. And so they have a hook where they hang those, and the kids can pick up their chore lanyard and get to it. And again, there'll be a link, but if you looking at this this chore list for the bathroom, it's pretty detailed. It says clear off the counter and the top of the toilet. Use one wipe to wipe the counter and sink. Throw that wipe away. Use a paper towel to clean the mirror. It goes through every step, and that can be really helpful for our kids who might forget all those steps, or really need that extra support. Again, that's for a reader, but going through those specific steps can be very, very helpful in building that skill. Using technology to motivate and build independence. There are so many apps out there, and I'll touch on these a couple times. This is my son, actually, on the bottom left, and he uses technology so well. He loves it. And on the top left there is a picture from the Shortcuts app on the iPhone or iPad. Jonathan uses shortcuts really well, and he told me a little bit about how he does it. He figured it out all independently, but each night he has a shortcut where his phone asks him church or work. And so when he answers, it will then set the alarms for the next day. And then if he has a going to school routine. So what that does is it sets his volume lower. It gets a specific playlist. It gets the date and makes a note in his transit logs. Jonathan loves taking the train, taking SEPTA. It texts the code to SEPTA to get a text message back with the next 4 trains that are coming. So he has it all right there, and he knows what trains are coming when he gets to the station. And as a bonus for us, it texts hi to mom and to grandmom. So that's his going to school routine. He has a playlist at night, turns it on, it plays his Adventure in Odyssey recording, and then stops it at a certain time. So you can be quite creative, and building in those routines for a kid who likes technology, that can be very motivating to follow the routines. And then Common Sense Media, I'll send you a link for that. They have a list of apps to help kids stay focused that can be used for chores or schoolwork. Extensive lists of apps. And again, these were apps to help kids stay focused. They also have time management apps. Bear in Mind is a to-do list app. It gives reminders and tasks. ChorePad app is one that we used a while ago when our kids were younger, and it can be used to assign, to track, and to reward tasks. Kids go to their card each day, they tap the date, the chore they've completed to reward it. And it does build on rewards, so they're earning checks, and but you can be creative on what those awards are. It can be timed together, something special. It doesn't have to be food or something that you purchase, but it's very motivating for the kids to go in and get those checks and complete their tasks. And then the Streaks app is another one I put here. For adults or maybe older kids, or you might use it together as a family. Hey, as a family, we have gone for a walk every day, or we've read every day. And it has calendars, bar graphs, that sort of thing to track. So I think could be very motivating for some folks. And then podcasts can be a great resource, fun and entertaining, provide educational content. Some kids can listen better or in addition to reinforce learning. Very convenient and accessible. You can use them anytime, any place. And it's also a good way of modeling that we can use technology. They like playing with the phone or having it on for a good thing, for a beneficial way. And there are so many podcasts available. You can probably find something for just about any topic. My son, again, enjoyed America's Test Kitchen and the cooking shows for a long time. And so this is a kid's podcast on cooking, this mystery recipe app. But then, of course, there are good Bible story apps. The God's Big Story has been very popular. Big Picture podcasts. So that can be a great way to help kids work independently if they have something that they enjoy to listen to. And then there's a couple here listed for parents. If you want to explore, there's a list that I'll be sending, 6 podcast episodes to teach your kids about weather. Short and creative lessons. So again, just to explore some of the podcasts that are out there, that can be a good way to do that. And then there's the ultimate, the role of tech with special needs students, and also a list of podcasts for kids. So this is a podcast site that is a resource for parents in finding things that you might be looking for. Life Skills for Kids is by an OT, and helping you learn strategies to help kids do what they need to do. So that's another resource for you as well. So whatever you might be interested in, your kids might be interested in, you can probably find something related. And then I put in the Shutterfly. If you download the Shutterfly app, you can get a free photo book every month. And that can be a great way to document progress, to document activities, for the kids to, whether it be pictures of their artwork or things that they've done, just to really come together and work on, this is what we've done, and mark the progress throughout the year, their favorites. Ashley, did you have anything to add on the rhythms and routines before we jump in to the next section?
You're doing an awesome job. I made 2 notes. Tristan asked me to think of things along the way that I could share. I think my one thing take away from all of this is to again remind us as the parents and caregivers that the rhythms and the routines help take away the decision fatigue that we feel as caregivers as we're responding to behavior needs and constant interruptions. I find that my ability to make decisions over and over and over again gets really tiring. But with those rhythms and routines in place, it takes away some of that forward thinking. So I've told her before, I love the concept of rhythm simply because it orders my day without a time set to it. So it allows me to sink into activities that are going well, and it allows me to move on when activities are not going well. But I do them in the same order every day. We just may spend more or less time on certain things depending on the motivation that I have for that activity or moods that happen that day. So to remember that, and I think that was my only 2 things. So keep going.
Great. Okay. Then we're going to jump into the second section on building social thinking and social skills. I want to encourage us to remember that these are definitely important areas of growth. Many of us, I know growing up, you never really thought about social emotional development. It was physical, cognitive, language development. But probably as parents or those who maybe have kids with special needs, we're much more tuned in. But regardless, these are important areas. And it's good to think about it. If you're not familiar with the idea of social thinking, that term, it was Michelle Garcia Winters, really the one who started using that term as far as a real concept. And it's the process of interpreting thoughts, beliefs, intentions, emotions, actions of other people with the context of the situation to understand their experience. So understanding, well, it influences how we respond to others to achieve our social goals, such as being friendly to maintain a friendship, right? We need to understand that if we want to have a friendship with someone, we need to be friendly. It's our meaning maker, helps us interpret the meaning behind what others are doing, and then to know how to respond. And then we think more of social skills as far as what we're doing, but there's a lot going on in the mind before you get to that action point. I'll talk more about that as we go. So we can break social emotional learning into 5 main areas. That's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and then responsible decision making. And if you look through these components, you'll see that emotions come up in several areas. Awareness of your own emotions, managing your emotions, awareness of others' emotions, thinking about the impact of your behavior on someone else. So several of our slides focus on emotions, and it's just an example, but it is involved in a lot of these different areas. So thinking about communication skills, I'm sure that many of you have heard that such a large percentage of our communication is nonverbal. And many kids need to practice interpreting and using nonverbal communication. It's not something that all kids just get. And so I'll send you a link to a site that has a lot of different games and activities, but it might be follow my eyes or face to the prize. So this is where you might hide something in the room and then only using your face or facial expressions, you're pointing the kids they're trying to find the hidden object. Definitely something that I had not really heard of before, but kind of a fun way of getting awareness of those facial expressions. And how about Simon does? Instead of Simon says, this is Simon does. So you might be saying something totally different than what you're doing, and the kids have to pay attention to what you're actually doing, not what you're saying. And so that's really focusing in on that the movement someone's doing. Mirror, mirror, what do I see? is another interesting skill, not looking at, sorry, I'm not seeing my notes on that exactly at the moment, but looking in a mirror and I think making facial expressions, using that to help kids focus on that image. Teach active or whole body listening, and this image on the right is by, again, Garcia Winner on her social thinking website, and she has some books that teach about whole body listening, and you'll see here eyes looking towards the speaker, ears ready to hear, body quiet, that sort of thing. So really teaching kids more about, it's not just you're listening with your ears, you're listening with your body. And they have two books, Whole Body Listening, Larry, at school and at home. Other listening activities can be clapping games. Every time, have a child listen for a target word, and when they hear that word, they clap or do a motion. We're often familiar with things like Simon Says. Freeze dance, encourage your child to dance or move to music, and when the music stops, they freeze. Again, that's a listening skill that influences how they're acting. Conversation skills, so important. Initiating a conversation, learning how to ask questions or make comments, staying on topic during a conversation. I'm sure most of you have seen the game that you play sometimes where you have things written on a ball, say a beach ball, and each section has something written. And when you catch it, wherever your thumb lands, you talk about that topic. That can be a good way to get kids talking about things. And you could even follow up by having them ask a question, someone make a comment or ask a question about what they say. So it's not just one person speaking, you're getting some interaction. There are also conversation dice that you can purchase or make your own, again, that get kids talking about different things, and you can build in that follow-up comments. Phone calls and FaceTime, communicating with family and friends, especially now that we can't necessarily be together in person, we need to use those more. So important to talk, for kids to learn about parts of a conversation, the greeting and ending appropriately when they're done talking, not just dropping it or saying something, but I'm tired, or I want to go now, or something like that. So just thinking about using those phone calls, video calls, to build those interaction skills. And again, there's a great site that that I'll send you that has resources for a lot of these and others for building communication skills, if you just want some practical ideas. Learning about emotions. So there's a blog, Homeschool Giveaways. A woman talks about, as a homeschooling mom, she shared how she needed to learn to talk about emotions and model that behavior, processing emotions. And she's a Christian, so turning to God. And so the yellow, where you see the yellow, is by her. That's actually a feelings tracker, feelings and emotions tracker. It has sheets in there that kids can use to help keep track of their feelings and what triggers the feeling, their responses to tough situations. It's geared for a younger age, but just a good learning tool. They can go in and pick out which face you're identifying with. And then she also has some cards, some character cards with scripture verses that address 5 different emotions, just being sad, happy, confused, angry, friendly. So a little bit limited in the range of emotions, but that's a good starting point for younger kids. This All About Me self-portrait collage was designed as a back-to-school activity, so just learning about me, but it could also be, you could also use it with a happy face. So these are the things that make me happy, and they cut out pictures. So maybe a kid would want to draw the things that make them happy, or they could find pictures, or sad. And so make the face, talk about what brings out that emotion. And when I'm happy, what you might do. When I'm sad, I can remember. So just use that as a time to talk about those emotions and how we respond to those. The next one has the cube. You can see the cube dice that goes with the sheet. How is she feeling? And you can roll the dice, and then you make the face, and you might talk about it again. I like these free printable feeling mats. They definitely encourage you to look at the website, and just some of the variety of the faces that the kids that they do, that mad face is so intense and really could be fun. I can definitely see sitting and really talking with kids. My kids are older, so I didn't do all of these things when they were young, but it looks like so much fun. So we can still do those, but my son's not as likely to sit down with Play-Doh right now. So I have to think about a few levels up in talking about how we're feeling. There's a guide here by Vanderbilt. They have some great resources, Vanderbilt University. There'll be a link. Teaching your child to identify and express emotions. A nice little handout. And then the Act It Out resource at the top is a little more advanced, and you can look at, well, it is saying act it out, so you might pick one, and again, kind of almost a charades type thing, or use it to think about what's the character doing, what are the facial expressions, all those different components of what it looks like when you're feeling that emotion. So lots of Play-Doh for that. Here are some books and some movies. So again, Garcia Winner and Social Thinking has great resources. This one be You Are a Social Detective. And one thing I like about her resources is that in her store, there's a page with the product, but then she also has done a video, like a 2-minute video for almost all of her products, talking about how to use it, what the strengths are of the product. So those are fun to watch, and they're also great resources for you for learning. So you might watch some of those and get really good ideas about how to use things already in your life, even if you don't make the purchase. They're good small teaching tools, as well as a lot of written resources. So this You Are a Social Detective description includes: we are good social detectives when we use our eyes, ears, and brains to figure out what others are planning to do next, or are presently doing, and what they mean by their words and actions. This entertaining comic book offers different ways that can be reviewed repeatedly with students to teach them to develop their own social detective skills. So again, putting a really fun spin on thinking about other people. There's a nice list of books that support social and emotional learning. I think over 100 books. And this is also on the Vanderbilt site, and they have in their book nook, they have guides for some of the books that really can help you go further in thinking about activities and things to talk about related to books. This movie time social learning would definitely be for, well, primarily older. They say the ages are 4 to 18, but it could definitely go on up. And again, it's an idea. You can use this with a lot of things, but give strategies for teaching social thinking. And it talks about spy eye, students using their eyes to explore content and what each character is thinking, feeling, and doing within the context. Detective head. So these activities involve perspective taking and understanding more complex social relationships and subtleties such as politeness. And then Me Too, these activities focus on students making connections between the characters and themselves to explore empathy. So those are just great resources. And again, you could use those skills in lots of different things. Let's see, Show, Don't Tell is thinking about, for older kids, more advanced students, to help students think about details in describing how a character's feeling. So even in thinking about writing or communicating with others, it's helpful for students to think through a character's body, voice, and face in order to add details to their story. This is a free chart. Again, it's as much an idea to provokes thoughts on how to incorporate this sort of thing. So maybe you read that, and then as you're watching a movie or reading something, you can stop and pause with your kids and say, hey, did you notice that they turned away or they looked down? What do you think they might be feeling? Why did they do that? You might hear people talk about watching silent movies and just kind of giving a narration or stopping as you go and thinking about what's going on with the character. Why are they behaving, acting the way they are based on what they're feeling? This Due to Learn website has extensive resources on all these social skill areas. So communication skills, behavior, learning about emotions. I went a little overboard on giving you a view here, but it was kind of fun. So identifying emotions on the right side, there's 3 different levels. And so this is almost like it's like a little game you can do on the screen. You load it up, which one's afraid? And then the next level is, how does this person feel? So then they're picking from 3 different emotions. And then they're giving you a scenario. Tom told Avery he didn't want to play on Sunday. How do you think Avery felt? And so just a great visual, and you can talk through different things with the kids. And then on some of them, there might be 2. They might give a situation and they might be angry or they might be sad. So I like the different levels that it includes. There are worksheets, emotions worksheets in 3 different levels. Again, these are all free downloads. And this shows one of them here, just an emotion of the day. Different components about it. And so if you're wanting to set up just a regular, maybe a weekly thinking about different emotions, you could use the sheets like this. This emotions color wheel goes into all the, like a lot of different subtleties of emotions. You know, we have the small wheel with the primary emotions, but then there's so much in there. And if you click on those emotion names, you'll pull up a visual like the yellow rectangle, startled, that woman's startled, and it gives you kind of a definition of what it is and why she feels that way. So I think that could be fun just for some kids to explore all those different emotions. And then you'll see the other one with more adults. I like that these are not just small kid visuals, there's adults as well as children with emotions, and then there are cards that you can match to the picture. I can't believe how fast those leopards can run. Which one is the right, right emotion, facial expression for that? So Due to Learn is a great resource for you to check out. And then Childhood 101 is another resource I found, and they have, these emotion cards you'll see on the bottom right, and a lot of different activities to do with them. You could, the little boy has that on a headband, so you could do charades. You could make faces, a child pick a card, make faces, and someone else guess the emotion. The emotion wheel you could use for teaching. There are 3 different versions available, from a simple 4-piece to the 8-piece version. You choose the one that best suits your child's age and developmental level. You can talk through the different emotions, identify, what is it? How does our body feel? How does our face look? Can you share an example of a time when you felt this way? Maybe draw a picture in there, or write. If it's an older child, they might write how their body feels, those different things. And then you can also talk about how others feel with that. Again, might be watching a movie, reading a book, reading the Bible. Talk about people feeling some of these different emotions. And then the Social Emotional Learning Journal, that one is a item for purchase. It's downloadable. But if you take a look at the sample pages, you might get ideas for your kids or friends in ways to support them, process their emotions, develop coping skills, awareness, relationship building. And then there's a link to, again, Childhood 101 has 101 books that develop social skills, books about friendship. Always good to build in that reading time. Okay, this was a new find for me, Raising Little Disciples by, I guess, a couple in New York. And they have this nice 28-page ebook available, free download, and it goes through these emotions. Has, again, you can see the drawing in the middle. You can see more of the scripture verses and a response paper page for the kids. Sometimes I feel sad when, God, I felt sad today when this happened. So this could be just great to help kids bring those emotions, learn to pour out their hearts to God, bring their praises as well as their sorrows. And I think often so many families probably don't really talk much about emotions, about what makes us sad. And so that's a great reminder that we as parents or adults in their lives want to model that those things are real. We want them to know that they can bring those to God. And so you can look at their resources. And then body language and tone of voice is definitely one of those important areas that a lot of kids need to be taught about. Some just get it, but a lot need intentional instruction. So these are from a couple different sources, but this one is a lesson that uses the For the Birds video. And I don't know if you've seen that or not. I had not seen it until I came across this, but I encourage you to check it out. And it gives ideas for how to use it. It has scenario cards, a card with a scenario and a line of dialogue on it. Talks about having pairs read the situation, discuss what would happen if they use the wrong tone of voice, practice saying the words or the line in the right tone of voice, and really encouraged that don't practice the wrong way, although some of these could be fun to say with an attitude, but we don't want it. We want to encourage kids not to get that into their brains the wrong way. So you're in the middle of a video game and your mom says your name, you can definitely hear a what instead of a what, so thinking about how that tone of voice communicates a lot. And then also good to help kids think about when their voice volume changes. And there are a lot of visuals out there for that. I like the one at the top, thinking about the range of the perfect volume, too soft, too loud. And then the one on the bottom is adaptable or has several different versions. Again, those three, too loud, just right, too soft. And then you can think about the different grading of the voice. And then on the far right is a voice volume checklist. So again, if you're doing some teaching about this, you might say, when we're at the library or at church, what volume level do we need, right? So really being intentional about that and then following up. And you might think about having a cue, often, I mean, this is a very obvious one, the shh, but it might be like down a little bit, or I can't hear you, or something like that to cue. My daughter can speak very quietly sometimes, and it can be good to have just a way to nudge without saying, can you say that again, or please say that louder. So these are good resources. The worksheet on the far right is from a 101 Ways to Teach Children Social Skills, a ready-to-use reproducible activity book that I found online, and it's free, and it has all those activities for conflict resolution, coping, emotional awareness, emotional control, making friends, self-control, much more. So that's a great resource if you want something like this to work through. It can be a good teaching tool on a wide variety of social skills. Solving problems. I have two slides related to this. This problem solver is kind of an earlier tool for younger kids to think through some steps. What's my problem? To help train them to think of some solutions, to think, what would happen if I do this or do this? Hey, okay, I think I'll give this one a try, instead of just jumping in and acting on impulse. And then it's also good to think about, how big is my problem? And a lot of these are from Teacher Pay Teachers. There's a lot of free downloads there. So is it just a glitch? Hey, I dropped my pen, or my schedule changed. You know what? It's okay. I can handle that, right? We have to do a lot of teaching maybe so they get to that point, but they can learn to say, hey, I can deal with this. Or, is it something more major? And so this can help kids kind of step back and think what it is. And then there's some cards that go with it. So you could go through some scenarios to help kids learn to use those levels. And then this one is another one by socialthinking.com. On the left, the size of my problem. Not all problems come in the same size. Based on the size of the problem, how do you express your emotions? And so you can think about the size of the problem. Does my reaction match the problem? What happens if you have a small problem and large emotional response, right? Then it can be upsetting to others around the child. So you can use something like this to help them see that. It's designed for elementary ages, but could be useful broadly. And again, there's a video on how to use this tool, which would give you ideas, even if you don't purchase this or make your own. You can hear that little instruction on how to use that. And then again, on the right is a Teacher Pay Teacher download on helping, kind of gives a definition of those small, big, medium problems, examples, and then how I can respond. So great to work through with kids. All right, Ashley, you're on.
Kristen asked me to share just a bit about the Social Express. This is one of our personal family loves at the moment. For me, the overwhelming part about teaching social skills is knowing what skills we have and knowing how to incrementally build on those skills without creating gaps, overlooking gaps, knowing what the gaps are. So I discovered the Social Express this past year. It was designed for schools, but due to COVID last spring, they reworked the platform a lot. And so it is now open and available not only to schools, but also to families and individuals. So whether you're homeschooling or you just want to do this on the side, it can be for you, the teacher, with one student login. It can be as many as, I think, hundreds of kids. So the Social Express side comes with a subscription to the Cool School. Cool School is 6 lessons that are a little bit longer that deal with bullying, the concept of bullying, and they are very appropriate for kids on up through teenagers. The animation is great. It's not super kiddish. The characters all look like teenagers, so the little kids think they're cool. The big kids see themselves. I really like the Cool School, as well as the Social Express. The Social Express side is designed for building social skills incrementally. So there's 3 levels. Each level is designed to take 1 year. There's 36 lessons in a level. So you can take a pre-test and decide to opt out of level 1 or level 2 and just jump right into level 3. Or you can start at level 1 and work your way through. You're not limited to doing 1 level a year. You could do as many as you wanted. They come with additional pre-made lesson plans for how to teach the skills across a week. So it's designed for 1 social skill per week. The lessons are short videos. And what I love about the videos is it pauses and it gives 3 thought bubbles. And it lets the student choose what the next action is. And the series really encourages you to let them explore the wrong answers before the right answers, because there's so much to learn if you do it wrong. And what the wrong thing is, instead of just telling them only the right way to do the skill. And then at the end, there's a quiz. The quizzes, when they take them, super fun, like there's built-in motivation to them. And then you get the answers, and it's broken down by, did they get the concept and did they generalize it to a different area? So that's super helpful for me to be able to say, okay, they know the concept of blowing the nose, but it didn't generalize to another question about a kid who wasn't in the video. The questions, the quizzes are age defined by reading level. So little people get 2 questions and they're read to them and the answer's read to them. So you don't even have to be a reader. And then on up to teenagers, lots of questions. There's also games that go along with it. And then the teen career path picks up where the social express leaves off. And so it builds those skills for jobs and community involvement in a very similar way, leveled, structured, built-in motivation, but in a much more young adult appropriate way. It is subscription. It's $99 a year, but I have just been super pleased. So that's my spill for the Social Express.
Thanks. Okay. You may be familiar with the Good News for Little Hearts series by New Growth Press. They cover a lot of different emotions, and I have the Zoe's Hiding Place here on anxiety. Invites children to remember the Lord is near when they are anxious. So again, it's so good to be talking about these different emotions and these struggles, and modeling turning to the Lord in those. They include back pocket Bible verses. There's the verse cards in the back that can be a great resource. Tips for talking with your child and helping them manage their anxiety, or all the different things. So that's a great resource if you have younger ones that you want to go over those with. And then again, I mentioned the attitude resources. I get I'm signed up for their emails, and so I just see the wide variety of webinars that they do and resources they have. Watched a couple. I enjoyed this Ready, Set, Pivot, how to prepare our kids and yourself for an unfamiliar school year. And like this phrase of opting for curiosity over anxiety. Instead of, I'm worried about this, I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder when school's going to start again. I wonder when we're going to go back to Sunday school, instead of being, kind of changes the mindset just a little bit, open up the possibilities rather than fear. She talks about reducing overwhelm. For us and for our kids, really prioritize and then encourage efforting. We talked about that earlier. Just really want to build in encouragement and keeping that growth mindset. Checking in regularly. Again, we mentioned having times for family meetings to just kind of process and set goals. And then ones on new home learning routines. I'm sure we might have some homeschooling families on who are already doing that, and then many more are coming in. And it's also think about supporting the other families in the church. Talk about moving between workstations, building in movement. We talked about that earlier in the day. And then also making sure to set up those virtual social interactions is important. Again, many of us are feeling stuck at home, and be intentional about some of those things. And then this morning on the Gospel Coalition, there was this great article on the back to school supplies parents need. And I want to kind of wrap up with this. 4 invitations for families to embrace in uncertainty. Embrace the value of waiting. She says there's still no expiration date on the disruption. Surely this is an invitation to remember that faith can be seated when plans are on hold. She points us to Abraham's example of hoping in God during waiting. We can embrace this opportunity to remind our children and ourselves, even when life isn't good, God still is. Again, here's an opportunity to talk through responding to changed plans, to knowing that God is in control and is good, even when things are hard. We need to model that for our kids. Embracing the curriculum of the everyday. New teaching opportunities come with being home together, both the responsibilities of caring for home and opportunities for more intentional discipleship of our children. And so again, we can think about some of those daily rhythms, those daily learning new things that maybe we didn't have time to focus on before in that. embrace belonging to the family of God. She says, this academic year, there's an invitation for Christians and churches to collectively and safely shoulder our collective burdens and discover a family bigger than our nuclear one. As Paul reminded the Corinthians, there is no isolated suffering or celebration in God's family. And this is, again, a great time to teach about recognizing the needs and emotions of others. It can be very easy to be focused on ourselves, but we can teach kids during this time to think of others, to build in those rhythms of caring for and serving others. We talked to someone recently who regularly made cookies for new neighbors and had been doing that for a while, and new neighbors moved in, and maybe mom and dad are overwhelmed with just the way life is right now, but she still remembered, we want to make cookies for them. So reaching out, which leads to the next one, embrace the ministry of neighboring. Article encourages us to pay closer attention to the people around us and consider ways we can neighbor them in acts of service, connecting and caring. Just as Jesus took on flesh in order to neighbor us, we can be present in our neighborhoods for the good of our cities and for the glory of God. And I just love the way that fits in with our social awareness, social thinking about others and caring for them, as well as building in these patterns in our lives. So I thought that was a great way to end. And we want to open it up next for discussion.